Hi everyone, and welcome to my daily reading for Saturday, January 15th. This is a general reading for everyone. I forgot to mention yesterday, we had Mercury retrograde starts. I'll just speak to this really quickly because Mercury retrograde is a time, we get this a few times a year. I think this time, I believe this year it's 4 times. Typically it's 3 times a year. And it's when we get Mercury going backwards in the cycle. And it tends to be a time of mishaps, of difficulty, but it can also be a time of the past kind of coming back into play. You can hear from exes. It's sort of, I always see it as an opportunity for closure on things, on unfinished business from the past. But it's also a time that you just want to sort of, give yourself some extra time, be a little bit more careful about what you're sending, putting in writing, and so on. And I believe right now, this one, I believe, is in Aquarius, really focusing on communication in relationships. So again, watch what you're saying and sort of, do the count to 10 before you say anything you're really upset, etc. So it goes till just a few days before the end of January. So it's just that time of sort of, some of us find Mercury retrograde a little bit more trying time. So just people being aware that is going on. The past sort of coming back. But again, I always sort of see it as an opportunity for closure for things to the past. So I'm going to get started. I am just shuffling as we're talking, and today I am using, I'll show this just for those that have deck interest. I am using Stephanie Poulin-Law's Shadowscapes Tarot. I love this deck. This is a deck that I use for majority of my client readings. I love the artwork, and I love that some of the cards are sort of atypical as to, some of the imagery on tarot can be a little scary or upsetting for some people. The Death card, for example, is often seen as a skeleton or a Grim Reaper in different decks. And in this deck, one of the things I loved is the Death isn't necessarily a bad card. It's just a change card, endings and new beginnings. In this deck, it's a phoenix rising from the ashes. So this is one of my favorite decks, and it's a deck that I use probably more than any other. I'm just trying to show different decks with my daily readings. So, yeah. So, I am going to give it one more shuffle here. So this is the next 24 hours for everybody, sort of what's happening, what to think of, when you're making decisions and what you can expect. I'm just going to do a cut. Okay. And, oh, beautiful. Okay. Okay, perfect. So, some really strong messages in the cards. So we'll see how these all fit together. So the first one is a major Arcana card, and I'm actually I'll make sure that I do a video this week about a little bit about tarot, because I know for those of you that don't do tarot, it's kind of, I'm so comfortable with it. But for those of you that don't, some of the terminology are sort of like, well, what's she talking about? So I will plan to do a bit of details, because major and minor Arcana are something that I'll explain, because there is some differences. So the first one, for those of you that know, is a major Arcana, and it is the High Priestess. And this card very much speaks to intuition, psychic abilities. It's very much sort of listening to that inner knowing that the knowledge is within you, that the answers you seek are there. for those of you that, a lot of us have different varying degrees of different psychic abilities. And then there's everybody else that has their intuitions, but don't necessarily always trust or believe them. So this card for tomorrow, for Saturday, January 15th, is very much saying trust your instincts, trust your gut, trust your intuition, listen to your own. And if you're searching for answers, look to your own inner wisdom for those responses. So very powerful. Again, it's really speaking to that you have the wisdom, the ability. Trust yourself. The answers are there, that you're going to need in the next 24 hours. Okay. So depending on what's going on in your life and what's popping up tomorrow, just go with that. Okay. The next one is a bit of this is the Seven of Wands. And I actually like this depiction in this deck because it really clearly allows me to explain it. So in this deck, I think it's a fox and a badger. Yeah, it's a fox and a badger. And they're sort of tied in, they're kind of seen like a yin yang, and they are fighting. And to me, this is a card of conflict. But it's a card of the necessity to stand your ground. So if anyone is coming up into conflict tomorrow, or Saturday, today for the next 24 hours, this is a card that is saying, you know what? You need to hold your ground. You need to not budge. What you are feeling is the right decision. You're in the right for you and what is the right thing for you to do. So I'm not necessarily saying that you're right or wrong, but I'm saying it's right for you to stand your ground. And then when you take it in relation with the High Priestess, I think this is really sort of telling people, and again, we just spoke of Mercury retrograde, which is definitely a time when conflict, particularly in communication and mishaps, pop up. This is really saying sort of trust your instinct, don't back down, hold your ground. The Seven of Wands is really saying, I always think of it as sort of, put your line in the sand. Like, this is not negotiable. I tend this tends to, when it comes up in readings, really be more about points of what is, if we go with the right and wrong words, it's more about principles. And it's like, you know what, this just isn't right. It's kind of tends to get into that principles, ethics category. Just a feeling that, this doesn't feel right. I have to go with my gut. So these two kind of really go together. So if any of you have any kind of conflicts or things that pop up, these are a couple pretty strong messages that you're right. You need to trust your instinct and you need to stick to your guns and stick to what you're feeling is the right decision, statement, choice for you. Okay. The next one is the Eight of Pentacles. And pentacles are your money, your business, education, career, everything from the dollars and cents in your bank account to the home you live in, and the means in which you provide that security, your material aspects in your life. And the glare is not ideal. So the Eight of Pentacles is a great card because it talks, if you look at the actual card, it's a spider who's worked really hard on this huge, beautiful, elaborate web. And, it's got quite a bit of work to it. And so this really speaks to that. It really says, you know what, you've put in your time. This is talking about people who, have put in a lot of effort and a lot of time. And I mean, when this card comes up, if this one is resonating with you, it's we're talking about someone who hasn't cut corners. You've done it the right way. You've played by the rules. You haven't taken shortcuts. You've really taken pride in what you do, the quality of what you do, and whatever service, product, or that you're offering, that you want to do it right. If you're Canadian, Mike Holmes, you want to do the job well. This is kind of what this card speaks to. So this card is saying, like, you've done it, that it's going to pay off. That hard work was all worthwhile. You've really laid a strong, sturdy, dependable foundation, and you've done it the right way. You are going to see that play out, and you're going to see that benefit in a financial security, career, education aspect. So again, if anybody's sort of having some, I don't know, these can be sort of two separate things, or, if you're having some conflict in a work environment, this together, they're kind of saying, you know what? People know the way you do things. People know the way that, your attention to detail and your work ethic and etc. So, that is going to bring you out on top of this if these two go together. For some people, they may be two completely different things, or you may only resonate with one aspect, okay? And the next one is the Ten of Swords. Kind of a really, really heavy card. And because this is a general reading, I'm going to speak to all of the aspects that I can get in a reading, because maybe this message is for that one person that really needs to hear it. So the Ten of Swords is it's a card of endings, but it's a really heavy card. It's, for me, I tend to read it as sort of, you're broken down, you're at wit's end, you just can't take anymore, you're done. And, swords are to do with our mental, everything that's in our mind. So it's mental, logic, decision-making, etc. So this is just a card of just despair, anguish, kind of, I've had it, I'm done. I'm up to here, and like, I've got no more left. So again, I sort of spoke to yesterday, there's a lot of people that are at wit's ends. And a lot of people have sort of been pushing for a long time. And this is sort of a card that speaks to hitting sort of a breaking point. So it seems like it's almost seems separate from the other two, because to me, it's like we're talking about two separate things, but obviously some of you needed this message. The other thing that I got to throw out there, because it's an important issue, and particularly during the pandemic, when a lot of people are under, amounts of stress that are not their norm or their average or anything that they ever foresaw themselves dealing with. This is my card that, for me, in a reading, and I would, if I'm doing a reading for someone, I would go off my psychic abilities 1-to-1, and I would go off other aspects of the card. And, I don't tend to get it wrong in a reading, but obviously I'm going to say this because I feel like somebody needs to hear it. But this is my card that talks of contemplation or feelings of self-harm. So this is definitely a card I feel like somebody needs to hear, that, this is a card that says, hey, the tough times are at an end, but it's also a card that somebody thinks like they're done. And so I'm just here, for what little impact I can have, to say it is going to get better. The reading says that, and I feel like whoever needs to hear this, you're on one really tough day, and a day where you just kind of want to give up. And you know what? You're not alone. There's a lot of other people that have had those days. And obviously, if I'm reading this, there's going to be a few people that are having this day today. But this is a 24-hour reading. So I need you to trust me and do me a favor and do whatever you need to do to get through today. Call a friend, call a family member, go play with a child or a niece or a nephew. Go for a walk and scream at the woods, whatever you got to do to get through this next 24 hours, because I promise you're going to feel differently come the next 24 hours, okay? Whether something will slightly switch, and those feelings hopefully are coming to an end, because the Ten of Swords is an ending. It's, to me, it's passing. It's at its worst, but it's passing. So a bit of a, it started with a really nice, but then obviously a bit of a heavy ending. And that's the Ten of Swords for most people is just going to be a really tough, heavy sort of mental, I've had it, I'm done. Oh my God, get me a bottle of wine when I get home. For anyone who's teaching in Ontario, you guys are probably at your wit's end, or parents that are having, children on remote learning for the end of the week is you've kind of done. It's been a long week. But I just needed to bring up that more significant aspect because I felt like for a few people, that's going to be the message they need to hear, that it needs to be specific and it needs to be mentioned. Because for me, this can mean that more serious self-harm, suicidal thoughts, etc. Okay? So if that's you, um, sending you love and strength to get through a really, really tough day. And I think that talk to somebody, get some help, and tomorrow will be a bit better. Okay. So I will be back tomorrow, sending everyone my love for tonight. And I will be back with Sunday's reading. Take care and everybody stay safe. Okay. Love you all. Take care. Bye.